Kale walked slowly through the bustling corridors of the Viridia space station, his eyes scanning the crowd. Merchants shouted their wares. Aliens of every imaginable shape and size moved in hurried patterns, and the aroma of strange foods filled the air. He carried a small tray with a simple meal, a portion of warm bread, a small vegetable stew, and a drink that shimmered with faint blue light. Humans were rare here, and Kale knew that most people would barely notice him. That suited him fine. He found an empty table near a window looking out at the vast expanse of space. Ships of all sizes drifted by, docking or taking off, leaving trails of light behind them. He sat down, unwrapping his meal, and began to eat slowly. He didn't mind being alone. In fact, he preferred it. As he took a bite of bread, he noticed a small figure hesitating near the table. A young alien child with thin gray skin and wide black eyes stared at Kale's meal. Kale smiled softly and broke off a piece of bread, offering it to the child. "Here," he said gently. "Eat this. It's warm." The child hesitated, then took the bread with trembling hands. Kale watched as the child's eyes lit up and a quiet laugh escaped from between small lips. "Thank you," the child whispered in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. Kale nodded. "You're welcome. Eat slowly." As he returned to his meal, a hush seemed to fall over the space near him. He sensed rather than saw the change, a feeling of being observed. He looked up slowly and caught sight of a group moving through the corridor. Among them was a figure that seemed to glow with an inner light. The figure's skin shimmered with colors Kale could barely describe, shifting like sunlight on water. The figure stopped, their large eyes meeting Kale's. It was a girl, or perhaps a young woman, but not human. She was taller than the child who had taken his bread, her presence commanding yet gentle. She looked at him with a mix of curiosity and awe. Kale's heart beat a little faster, though he could not explain why. He did not know this being, yet he felt a connection, a strange pull of understanding, as if she could see more than just his face. She came closer, moving with a grace that seemed effortless. She stopped beside him, lowering herself to sit on the bench next to his. Her voice, soft and musical, barely above a whisper, reached his ears. "You're different," she said. Kale blinked, unsure what to say. "Different?" he asked, keeping his voice calm. "Yes," she replied, tilting her head slightly. "Most beings here are busy with themselves, but you care." Kale hesitated. He had lived a simple life, helping others when he could, never expecting recognition. "I only do what I think is right," he said softly. She smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting light from the station's ceiling. "That is rare," she said. "Most do not notice small things, but you see them?" Kyle felt a warmth in his chest. He had traveled far from Earth, seeking nothing but new experiences and understanding. And yet here, in this foreign place, someone recognized the simplest truth about him: his humanity. Before he could speak further, a sudden commotion erupted down the corridor. Shouts, hurried footsteps, and the sound of metal clashing echoed through the station. Kale and the girl turned to see a figure darting toward them, clutching a small, glowing object that seemed important. Without thinking, Kale stood and stepped between the figure and the girl. The thief hesitated, seeing him. Kale did not flinch. He had no weapons, only the strength of his body and his determination. "Stop," Kale said firmly. His voice, steady and confident, carried across the corridor. The thief faltered, and in that moment the girl reached out, her hand brushing Kale's arm as if to acknowledge his courage. The thief made a sudden move, trying to dash past Kale. But Kale reacted quickly, blocking the path. The thief tripped and fell, letting go of the stolen item. Kale caught it, holding it firmly. The girl's eyes widened, admiration evident. "You didn't hesitate," she whispered. Kale handed the object back to the girl, who seemed unsure what to do with it. "It's safer now," he said gently. At that moment, a regal presence arrived. The girl's mother, Queen Variel, moved through the crowd with an aura of authority that made people step aside. Her skin shimmered with a softer golden hue, and her eyes, large and discerning, fixed on Kale. "Who is this human?" she demanded, her voice calm but commanding. The crowd parted to make way for her. Kale bowed slightly, as much out of respect as instinct. "I am Kale," he said. "I only acted to protect—" He paused, unsure how to finish. Someone in need. The Queen's eyes narrowed. A human interfering with royal matters is unusual. "Explain yourself." Kale took a deep breath. "I did not act for reward or recognition. I only did what seemed right." Queen Variel's gaze lingered on him, sharp and calculating. Most humans would act for selfish gain, she said. Why are you different? Kale looked at the girl, who smiled at him faintly, her hand still brushing his. Because kindness matters, he said. Not power, not wealth, only kindness. The queen studied him, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded slightly. Very well, she said. You will remain under observation. The princess will see to that. The girl's eyes sparkled with a mixture of mischief and admiration. She leaned closer to Kale and whispered, You truly are different. Kale smiled, a small warmth spreading through him. He did not fully understand the consequences of the queen's decision, but he felt a sense of purpose, a feeling that this moment was the beginning of something important. As they moved together through the station, the princess explaining little things about her world in whispers, Kale realized that his journey had taken an unexpected turn. He had come seeking new experiences, and instead he had found a connection, a bridge between worlds, fragile yet profound. The observation was not restrictive. It was a test of understanding. Kale learned about the customs, the language, and the challenges the princess faced. He saw the pressures of her position, the careful steps required in every interaction, and the hidden dangers that surrounded her even in casual moments. He also saw the quiet moments, the laughter, the small joys that were often overlooked in royal life, sitting together at meals, sharing stories, even exchanging a simple laugh. Kale began to understand that heroism was not only in grand gestures but in simple choices, acts of empathy and courage in everyday life. Days passed in this rhythm. Kale observed, learned, and acted when necessary. Every small interaction deepened the understanding between him and the princess. And every evening, when the corridors emptied and the stars shone brightly outside, she would whisper the same words, a gentle reminder of the bond forming between them. You're different. Kale knew that the Queen's watch was not merely for caution. It was a challenge, an invitation to prove that human values could matter in a universe filled with complexity and caution. And Kale, with every choice he made, realized that he was ready to meet that challenge, not for recognition, but because it was right. The moment felt like a quiet promise between two worlds, fragile yet powerful. And as the stars outside continued to drift silently, Kale understood that this was only the beginning. The adventure ahead would test courage, wisdom, and compassion. But Kale had already discovered the most important truth, that even a single act of kindness, even the smallest choice to help another, could ripple through a universe and change the course of lives. And in that moment, seated beside the alien princess, sharing silence and understanding, Kale knew that The days following Kale's first meeting with Princess Leora passed with quiet intensity. Kale was no longer just a visitor in the station. He had become a part of the princess's world, under the careful observation of her mother, Queen Variel. Every moment was a lesson. Every gesture had meaning, and every small act of kindness continued to define him in ways the Queen could not ignore. Kale woke early that morning to the soft hum of the station. Through the window of the restricted wing, he could see ships preparing to leave and others arriving. The corridors were quieter than usual, yet he knew this calm was temporary. A challenge was coming. He could feel it. When he entered the main hall, Leora was already there, standing beside a low table where maps and devices displayed the layout of the nearby city. Good morning, she said softly, her eyes sparkling with unspoken excitement. Today is not ordinary. Kale nodded, curiosity mixed with cautious anticipation. I expected that, he replied. What are we doing? The Queen has arranged a test, Leora explained. There is unrest in the city. Some of her advisors suspect a group is planning sabotage. Your task is not to fight with weapons. You must prevent harm without creating chaos, and she leaned closer, lowering her voice. You must protect me if necessary. Kale's eyes met hers. I will do what I can, he said quietly, though his mind was already working through possibilities. He had faced challenges before, but this was different. Here, every choice mattered not only for him, but for an entire world. They moved together through the station, blending with merchants, travelers, and citizens. Leora walked with grace, her presence commanding respect, while Kale stayed alert, scanning the surroundings. Every alley, every doorway, every shadow was a potential threat. Their first stop was the market district, where vendors sold exotic fruits, textiles, and devices that hummed softly with energy. Kyle noticed a small crowd gathering near a stall, their voices raised. One figure, partially hidden, was slipping small energy crystals into a container. Kale's instincts told him something was wrong. He approached slowly, careful not to draw attention, and whispered to Leora, "Do you see that?" Leora nodded subtly. "Yes, they intend to use those crystals to disrupt the energy grid. It could cause chaos in the district." Kyle considered the situation. Confrontation would draw attention, yet waiting risked disaster. He moved closer and gently placed his hand over the container, holding it steady while keeping the figure in view. "Hey," he said quietly but firmly, "this is not yours to take." The figure froze, eyes widening at the unexpected calm in Kale's voice. In that moment, a guard passed nearby, alert but cautious. Kale signaled the figure to leave the crystals and step aside. Slowly, carefully, the would-be saboteur obeyed, realizing that force would not succeed here. Leora watched him, a smile forming on her lips. "You see what needs to be done," she whispered. Kyle nodded. Sometimes the right action is the quiet one. After securing the crystals and alerting the authorities without causing panic, Kyle and Leora continued through the city. The challenge was far from over. Messages from the Queen indicated that additional tests awaited, situations where diplomacy, observation, and quick thinking would determine success. Next, they encountered a group of citizens trapped near a collapsed bridge. A minor quake had caused the damage and panic had begun to spread. Kale immediately moved to help, coordinating with local officials and directing the frightened citizens to safety. Leora assisted, her calm presence reassuring the crowd. Together, they demonstrated a seamless partnership, one of trust and understanding rather than command. By midday, word of Kale's actions had spread. Citizens whispered of the human who acted without fear, who helped without expectation, and whose presence seemed to inspire order and hope. Even some guards, skeptical at first, began to admire his judgment and courage. When they returned to the restricted wing of the station, Kale was greeted by the Queen. Her eyes were sharp, yet there was a hint of approval beneath the surface. "You have handled yourself well," she said. "Many humans would have failed, acting recklessly or seeking reward. You did neither." Kyle bowed respectfully. "I only did what I believed was right." Queen Variel regarded him for a long moment, her gaze almost penetrating. Then she turned to Leora. "You see, daughter, humans are capable of more than we often expect. But courage alone is not enough. Compassion and wisdom must guide action." Leora looked at Kale, her expression softening. "He embodies all three," she said, her voice filled with quiet pride. The Queen nodded, and for the first time Kyle saw her allow a small approving smile. It was a recognition not just of bravery, but of character. Kale realized that this was the beginning of something far greater than a single test. It was a bridge, a connection between human ideals and an alien world that had long valued order above empathy. In the following days, Kale continued to assist Leora and her advisors. He learned the customs of the station, the intricacies of alien technology, and the subtle ways in which trust was earned. Each day was a lesson, each challenge an opportunity to demonstrate that humanity could be a force of good even in the most unfamiliar places. Through it all, his bond with Leora deepened. They shared stories of Earth, of simple moments Kale cherished, the warmth of sunlight on skin, the taste of fresh bread, the sound of rain on rooftops. Leora shared her world in return, the histories of her people, their values, and the quiet joys hidden in daily life. They laughed, learned, and even disagreed at times. Yet respect and admiration never wavered. One evening, as the station's lights dimmed and stars stretched endlessly outside the window, Leora leaned close to Kale. "You have changed my perspective," she said softly. "I used to believe humans were unpredictable, driven by impulse. But you act with intention. You act with care." Kyle smiled, humbled. "I only do what seems right. But your world, it has taught me as much as I hope I've taught you." They sat in silence for a moment, sharing the quiet understanding that had grown between them. The challenges were not over, but the trust they had built would guide them through whatever came next. The Queen entered then, her presence commanding yet calm. "Kyle," she said, "you have proven that humanity is capable of great things. Your courage, your wisdom, and your kindness are rare traits. You may stay within the station not as a guest, but as an honored participant in our affairs. Kyle bowed, overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will honor the trust you place in me. Leora reached out, placing her hand lightly on his. You have already honored it, Kale, she whispered, in ways that matter more than you realize. The days that followed were filled with preparation for future challenges, missions of diplomacy, and moments of quiet reflection. Kale became more than a visitor. He became a symbol, a living example of the values that made humans remarkable. Courage, empathy, and integrity. In the quiet hours of the night, Kale would often look out at the stars, thinking of Earth, but no longer feeling distant from it. He had discovered something more profound than travel or adventure. He had discovered connection, trust, and the subtle but powerful force of simple good actions. And beside him, Princess Leora, shimmering with quiet light, would smile and whisper, "You're different." Kyle understood then that it was not a comment on strength or skill, but on character. In a universe full of complexity and danger, what mattered most was the choice to be kind, the courage to act rightly, and the wisdom to care. The bridge between worlds had been built not with weapons or wealth, but with humanity itself. And in that bridge lay hope, not only for Kale and Leora, but for the future of two species learning to understand one another. As the station drifted silently in space, and the stars outside stretched endlessly, Kale felt a quiet certainty. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with the same principles that had brought him here: honesty, compassion, and courage. And for the first time, he knew that being different was not a weakness, but a gift, a light in a universe that often forgot the power of simple goodness.